Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to be going over the history and geography of Pakistan. Let me grab a pointer pencil so I can point out some geographic features to you, and then I'll go over its history, and then we'll flip through this book and look at some really awesome pictures of Pakistan. So Pakistan is located in a part of Asia known as the Indian subcontinent. It is bordering the Indian Ocean here and the Arabian Sea, and it is also bordered by Iran, Afghanistan all up here, China, and India. The biggest, most controversial geographic feature of Pakistan would be, as you can see, this area up here is very disputed. We'll go into why in its history. It's not terribly complicated why, but the geographic aspect of it is very complicated. So this border here was the agreed upon border politically, but Pakistan and India don't like it, and both claim all of this territory. There's also little pockets up here that Pakistan gave to China, especially this part here, but India still claims it. So it's very, very controversial. It's known as the Jammu and Kashmir area, but there are also lots and lots and lots of mountains in this area. You can see we have the Hindu Kush range here. All right, my window wasn't closed all the way. We have the Karakoram range right here, and then the very famous Himalayas stretch into this area. K2 is up here, the highest point in Pakistan and the second highest mountain in the world in terms of sea level, yada yada. What's really interesting is that this road up here is the Karakoram Highway. It is the highest paved road in the world. There's also the Khyber Pass in the regions here, another very treacherous road into Pakistan. And it's just a neat area. I like to look at these mountains. There's a cool picture in here of what the mountains look like. But the other very prominent geographic feature would be the Indus River, which you can see flowing right through here down the middle of the country. And it's neat if you look at aerial photos, like satellite photos of Pakistan, you just see this huge stretch of green going all through there and into this delta. You can see the mouths of the Indus here. And of course this area makes up a part known as the Indus Valley, which we're going to talk about really soon in its history. And there's also some very deserty regions. We have this part over here known as Balochistan, and very dry and deserty, especially compared to the other desert. You can see the Thar Desert goes into this area here. This desert, although technically a desert, is still very fertile thanks to all of this runoff from the Indus River. But this side is the more rocky, dry area. It's really pretty though still. Major cities include Karachi down here. This is the largest city, and as you can tell, it's on the water here. It's the big port city. The next biggest one would be Lahore up here. But the capital city is up here, Islamabad. It's one of those cities that was built to be the capital city. Rawalpindi is the big suburb area of the capital city. And you can really see all of these huge cities in this big region here known as the Punjab region. Very, very lush and green, as you can imagine, from the river. For the most part, that's all I wanted to touch on geography. If I remember any more, I'll bring it up in the history, but let's get into it. We're going to start way back in the past. We go back to early human civilization in the ancient cities known as Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. They are, of course, located in the Indus Valley here. I'm going to do a whole video on them for you, But Mohenjo-daro was the first ever planned city, the first one with a sewage system, basically indoor plumbing. Mohenjo-daro didn't have any kind of temple or castle or big major structure where a leader would have been. All the houses are basically the same size. And we don't really know what happened to that city. It's believed that the Indus River changed its course and people abandoned it. But it was very, very thriving in its time. They traded with Mesopotamia, later with like the Persian people. But what really shook up the area was when the Aryan society came into the Aryan society, like the Aryan peoples came, invaded the valley, and their customs meshed with the Harappan peoples to create their own unique one. It was known as the Vedic period, and it was between 1500 and 500 BCE. And essentially this is where the birth of Hinduism came. The sacred scriptures of Hinduism is known as the Vedas, hence the Vedic period. And yeah, Hinduism really exploded out from this region. Now, a lot of empires came and went in this territory, starting with the Achaemenid and basically the Persian Empire, and later Alexander the Great stopped by for a bit, conquered the region, and then Chandragupta Maurya took over the region, founded the Mauryan Empire, dominated all of this area. Besides Chandragupta, the most famous king of that empire was Ashoka, who had converted to Buddhism, and that's when Buddhism exploded in the area and took over a lot of the region. There were some big Buddhist empires in Punjab and in Sindh, and those took over. And then everything changed in the year 711 CE when Muhammad bin Qasim conquered the area, and he brought with him Islam, and then Islam exploded in the area and is still the dominant religion to this day. The whole Islamic movement, I suppose, that also brought on multiple different empires, the most notable ones being the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal Empire, but I'll go into more detail on those when I cover India. It's kind of their story to tell, but they were in control of this area. And then everything changed again in 1839 when Karachi was taken over by the British. It wasn't a big city then, it was just a little port trading town, but that's where the English started their takeover of this area. It sparked a lot of wars, the first Afghan War being the first major one. But after many wars, this area was taken over by the British East India Company, and then later just Britain itself became part of the British Empire, ruled by Queen Victoria. And like I said, multiple wars and uprisings and things like that happened. If I listed them all, we'd be here all night. Obviously, these people did not really enjoy the British being here at the start of it. But basically, Britain had total control of the area by 1839. The wheels of change started again in the 1920s when there was a big movement for a Muslim country independent of India, since India was primarily a Hindu place and this territory was primarily Muslim. Syed Ahmed Khan formed what's pretty much known as the Muslim League. It was sort of an answer to Gandhi's movement against Britain, where they were more pro-British, they didn't want to protest Britain in and of itself. They just wanted to establish their own state, and that was really defined on December 29th, 1930, when poet turned political leader Allama Muhammad Iqbal called for a Muslim nation to be created. That was supported by a very prominent politician named Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He basically created the Pakistan Resolution, or the Lahore Resolution of 1940, which in a nutshell would set the wheels in motion to create Pakistan. The nation of Pakistan was established on August 14th, 1949, in a very reluctant partition with India from Britain. They didn't want a separate nation, but nonetheless it happened, and didn't quite look like this. There was West Pakistan and East Pakistan, because those were the two dominantly Muslim parts of India that became their own country, with East Pakistan being a huge exclave of West Pakistan, which was where all of the political power and everything sat. This partition sparked the biggest mass migration of humans in history, as Hindus moved out of Pakistan and Muslims moved out of India. There are, of course, lots of riots as well. And then we have the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. So Britain didn't know what to do with this area because it was predominantly Muslim, but its current leader was Hindu, so they decided to leave it up to the territory to decide what to do. And the leader voted to become part of India, which sparked riots and protests. Both countries refused to acknowledge that decision. Or, obviously, India accepted it, but Pakistan did not. It sparked the Indo-Pakistani War of 1947 to 48. And even though this line was decided eventually in 1972, I'm a little ahead of myself. Like I said before, it's just kind of ceremoniously there. It doesn't mean that it's a definitive border, since India still claims this territory, Pakistan still claims this territory. It is the most militarized corner of the world. It's also known as the highest war in the world due to the elevation. But it's an issue that's still ongoing, and you're going to hear about it a little more throughout the history. In March 1949, the Objectives Resolution was passed, became part of their constitution, and it established Pakistan as a Muslim state and as a republic. So Pakistan does have freedom of religion. There are Hindus and Christians and everything else in Pakistan, but officially, the official religion is Islam. You have to be a Muslim to hold significant political power, so on and so forth. But the presidential system didn't start until 1962. It was very rocky at first politically, especially the whole India thing. The next war broke out in 1965. It was very unpopular. And then in 1969, a cyclone hit East Pakistan, devastated the country, and the people in East Pakistan felt that they didn't get the resources and supplies they needed to recover from that from West Pakistan. And due to a lot of reasons, there was a civil war between the two, and it eventually led to the creation of Bangladesh. So if you want to hear more about that in detail, you can check out my video on Bangladesh. But yeah, the political sort of instability situation came to a head when General Zia-ul-Haq led a coup against the current leader, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. He was very much about Islamization, establishing Sharia law, and also amped up the whole nuclear program, since India and Pakistan were both starting to get really interested in nuclear weapons, which is a big concern when you have this going on up here. But in 1988, General Zia died in a plane crash, and that led to actual free elections, really. And I mean, there had been in the past, but there was always a shadow of corruption to it. But the people elected Benazir Bhutto, the daughter of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, the first peaceful transition of power and the first female president of Pakistan. The 1990s was mainly dominated by the left versus right politics. The left would have been the Pakistan People's Party, which is led by Benazir Bhutto, and the right would have been the Pakistan Muslim League. It really stagnated the economy, since it would go back and forth whenever there was a new election. The other party would be on top and then be unpopular. So the next election, the next party be on top, undoing each other's work and everything. But that changed in 1999 when war with India sparked up again, and that set like the wheels in motion for General Pervez Musharraf to lead a bloodless coup of the country and took over. In 2007, though, it was time for elections and he was going to allow them to happen. Benazir Bhutto was, of course, like the main choice for people, but she was assassinated in 2007. So that just increased people's support in the Pakistan People's Party. Musharraf, of course, needed to do something about that. So he tried to stall the elections, put them off. It led to impeachment movements, and it led to him resigning. And then Benazir Bhutto's husband, Asif Ali Zardari, was elected president. Then the 2000s was dominated mainly by the war on terror, mostly overflow from what was happening over in Afghanistan. It really racked up a lot of money and lives as well. And thankfully that's really ramped down, but it was a pretty unstable time. Where we're at today, the last major election was in 2018. Imran Khan was elected prime minister, and what's interesting about him, he was a professional cricket player and like a really good one too. So he was already really beloved, and he started his own political party known as the PTI, and it gained a lot of popularity, obviously. And he's in charge. So Pakistan is now a nation of 3 major political parties, which, personal opinion, I think that's how it should be, because when you have 2, you get that back and forth nonstop and that stagnation that I mentioned. So anyway, that is basically where Pakistan is today. It is a lovely country. Let me show you some pictures in here. Turn this over. It's a really beautiful cover of this book also. Really gorgeous mosque. You can tell that's a Mughal mosque. Shah Jahan was like the most famous Mughal ruler. He's best known for his amazing architecture, best known of that being the Taj Mahal, of course. Here's Mohenjo-daro, the first planned city in the world. They used these kind of seals for some reason, probably for trade, but we can't read their writings. We won't know for sure. Here's a cute little ox cart found there, and this is one of the famous statues found there. It's known as Dancing Girl, and she is a boss, isn't she? She looks awesome. The other really famous statue, or figurine, I suppose you'll see later in this book. Here we can see a political map of Pakistan. You can really see the Jammu and Kashmir region really well. Of course, this region is also highly contested, but this is where all of the tension lies for the most part. This is in Karachi, sorry, my drink's over there. A really beautiful clock tower. It's called the Meriwether Clock Tower. Here's the picture I was talking about, the Himalayas. I like this picture because it looks like if you were to just draw mountains, you go poo, 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 poo. You just draw little points. That's what this looks like. Really cool. And then, of course, the beautiful lush green valley from all of the snow melt coming down from these mountains, flowing into the river. Here we have a physical map of Pakistan. You can see the Hindu Kush, the Himalayas there. You can see the river flowing down and all of its tributaries flowing down from the mountains, and the rocky desert area over here. Here's a really cool picture of the Indus River and the Indus River Valley. Very, very green and lush. Here's a camel. Now, do you remember what kind of camel this is? Remember, it has one hump. That makes it a dromedary camel. Some other pictures of the cities. This is another picture of Karachi. And up here is the Badshahi Mosque in Lahore. This is the Karakoram Highway mentioned, the highest paved road in the world. This is the town of Abbottabad, which has an interesting name because it was founded by James Abbott. So it's Abbott. habit town, basically. A very bad dust storm happening here. And, ooh, squeaky book. And a big flood happening here. Very treacherous. But look at this. It's autumn right now, and this is like autumn vibes right now. The leaves, cool water, bubbling brooks. This is the jasmine flower, the national flower of Pakistan, and probably one of my favorite flowers. I love the smell of jasmine. These are Marco Polo sheep. And this is the markhor, the national animal of Pakistan. They have these amazing horns. So cool, and big beards too. This guy's got a lot of plastic jugs. Maybe he's selling them or collecting them, I don't know, but he's got a cute donkey. We've got some flamingos. And this is the Indus River dolphin, one of the most endangered mammals in the world. There's a big protection movement for them. And a big chomper. It says here, the Shidi people, yes, of Pakistan believe crocodiles are sacred. Air pollution is a big problem. When you've got a lot of cars and a lot of people, you get a lot of air pollution. And over here we have some baby turtles. So cute. This is the other famous statue from Mohenjo-daro, or figurine, I suppose. It's known as Priest King, even though we don't know if they had any priests or kings. It's just a very fitting name. This is from the Buddhist time period. This is probably on a stupa somewhere. It doesn't say. It's in Sanchi, India. But very characteristic of the really intricate like carvings and artwork in the buildings there. Big map of empire. So let's see. Blue is the Mauryan Empire. Red was the Kushan Empire. Big zigzaggies. The Sasanians over here. And the Mughals were in purple. And you can see the Aryans invaded from here. And the Arabs invaded from here. Here's Babur, one of the famous, I think the first, founded the Mughal Empire. Looks like he's gardening with some gardeners here. Another of the famous Shah Jahan, buildings. This is Lahore Fort. The Indian Rebellion. This is in Delhi. This is Allama Muhammad Iqbal, who started off as a poet. He was very, very beloved. He wrote poetry about basically like freedom for, or creation of a Muslim nation. Very pro-Muslim poet. And what's down here? This is probably when he made his announcement or something. I can't tell. Anyway, I mentioned him, how he, in his like big presidential address, how he mentioned that Pakistan needed to be created. Here's Muhammad Ali Jinnah. He's basically considered the father of Pakistan. He's still extremely beloved. The partition of India in 1947, so you can see West Pakistan. And there's East Pakistan, which is now Bangladesh. And here's from that huge migration of people. It was literally millions of people that moved countries over the borders. A protest for the Kashmir region. Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan. Some East Pakistani soldiers during the Civil War. And here's Muhammad Zia-ul Haq. And there's Benazir Bhutto with Bill Clinton. And here is Pervez Musharraf with George W. Bush. We're not going to talk about that. YouTube doesn't like that topic a lot at all. And this is from an earthquake. So you can imagine, with the mountains being an obvious sign, there is a lot of seismic activity in this region of the world, and it can be very devastating. So anyway, casting a vote. flag of Pakistan. Let's talk about it. Just days before it became an independent country, Pakistan adopted its national flag, modeled on the flag of the All India Muslim League. It consists of two sections, a white vertical stripe on the left side and a large green field on the right. In the center of the green field is a white crescent and five-pointed star. The green section represents the nation's Muslim majority, while the white stripe symbolizes the religious minorities living within its borders. The crescent stands for progress, and the star represents knowledge and light. The National Assembly down here. This was the, I suppose, then Prime Minister of the time. This is an assembly in Karachi, one of the regional assemblies. Islamabad. This is the big mosque in Islamabad. Map here. You can tell it was definitely built to be a capital because it's all very intricately designed, all very meticulous, very organized. The President Sardari says he's meeting with children who lost their homes from a flood, and some Supreme Court judges. There's Musharraf, and over here is the Supreme Court. Really interesting building there. Being patriotic. And here are some soldiers on patrol. You can see one of the colorful trucks or buses over there. We'll talk about that in a minute. Here's Benazir Bhutto, the first female leader of Pakistan. And she's got her ID, ready to vote. This guy is harvesting wheat, it says. This person's harvesting cotton. And these people are fishing. And this person's making some cricket bats. So child labor is an issue in Pakistan. You can see some kids here working on a rug. This is Iqbal Masi. He fled his work that he was forced to do, and he spoke out about child labor rights, but he was assassinated when he was like 13, right? Yeah, 13. Some miners hard at work, and here's a resource map. You can see lots of farming along the river, and livestock, and all the white areas you can't farm in. Cleaning solar panels, and here is the truck that I was talking about. So it's a really beloved form of public art. All the big trucks / buses are very intricately painted all over. It's a big site. It's very, very lovely. Every single one's different. Here's their currency, the Pakistani rupee. And this is a protest for government corruption, it says. Playing some hoops. Here's a population map. You can see the majority of people living along the river here in these areas. This is some Pashtun people in Peshawar, one of the ethnic groups within Pakistan. There's a lot of them, including this Sindhi person. And these are Balochi students, it looks like, are working on some art. Many, many different ethnic groups. This is a map of all of the main languages spoken in Pakistan. Except for Urdu. It doesn't have that on there. I guess this is all the other languages other than English and Urdu. Speaking of, this guy is writing some verses. It says the wall in Urdu. They're working hard at school, learning their alphabet. This is what Urdu looks like. But English is widely spoken, left over from its British colonial history. Really beautiful mosque out here. It's time for prayers, you can see. Here's some Christians at prayer and some Muslims at prayer. A really beautiful Quran. A picture of Mecca, because whenever it talks about like what Islam is, it has to talk about Mecca, show a picture. this family sadly mourning someone who was killed in an attack. And this very lovely person's all dolled up for Eid, one of the big, big holidays in Islam. Love the nail color. This is a parade. They are Shia Muslims, it says. And this person's getting ready for a Ramadan feast because you fast all day long. So he's setting up some plates for when the sun goes down, everyone can dive right in and eat. It looks really good too. Some kind of rice and chicken dish. Looks yummy. Some dancers, very colorful, beautiful costumes. This is from the National Art Gallery. The statue is called 7 Feelings Against Destruction. These guys are watching some cricket at an electronics store, I think. Yeah, this is an electronics store. Some of the famous pottery from Pakistan on a multan blue. This really gorgeous color. And this is a very, very famous singer, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. He sings a form of music called Qawwali, and it's like kind of like hymns, basically spiritual songs. Polo is a really big sport in Pakistan, but not as much as cricket. This is Imran Khan, the current Prime Minister of Pakistan. Turned politician, or sports star turned politician, I mean. The Basant Festival is famous for its kites. This is a huge kite. My goodness, I've never seen a kite that big. Time for tea. Very cute little ones with Grandpa, looks like. They're working hard. It says at the post office. Oh, baby. So sweet. A very proud dad there. The University of the Punjab in Lahore. This is a typical Pakistani wedding. Very beautiful bride. And the bridal party always get henna tattoos. So cute. This is an example of the traditional clothing that many people in Pakistan wear, known as the shalwar kameez. These are burqas, another clothing item that women could wear in Pakistan. This guy's got a lot of naan for days. And this is pulao, I suppose. It looks delicious. Ooh, it's making me hungry. This is lassi, a very famous yogurt drink. That's like a summertime drink, I believe. Yeah, summer drink. This guy's reading the newspaper in his tassel shop, I guess. Working hard on the computer, talking on the cell phone. And that's the end of the book. So that'll be it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I have lots of cool videos coming up this week about Pakistan, so be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Looking at my books right now, like I said, I have that book on the Indus River civilization. I've got a biography for you. And yeah, lots of other videos, so don't miss out. Thank you again for watching. I hope you found this video relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a very good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.